Hey guys, Caduce Campbell here for TheButtonSmashers.com, and this is our review for Fallen Legion Plus.
Venumia consumed the body of Borin long ago. With each generation it devours more of our soul, and there is precious little left. I will bring us glory again, and if I bring a little glory to myself in the process, so much the better.
In Fallen Legion Plus for the PC, we get a combination of Fallen Legion Sins of an Empire, originally released for the PlayStation 4, and Fallen Legion Flames of Rebellion, originally released for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. Both tell the story of a civil war that tears the nation apart from different perspectives. Playing the Sins of an Empire route, you play as the Princess of Venumia, Cecile, as she reluctantly struggles to hold her nation together following the death of her father. Corrupt royals and starving peasants are just a few of the things that the young princess will have to deal with as she inherits the sins of her father. In Flames of Rebellion, you get a contrast to the princess, a point of view that sees you take control of a rebellion inside the nation led by Lagatus Leander. His name is really complicated. Now from his point of view, it's not that he initially wants to go up against the princess, but rather forced to due to circumstances that you'll encounter as the story progresses. So why a rebellion? Well, you see, Venumia is not your typical fantasy land with beauty and honor. Oh, this is a war-built nation that absorbed those that they conquered, taking their citizens as its own. It's basically like a tiger living under the tight grip of a leash. The moment you remove that leash, the beast will attack. It's the same thing that happens in the story of Fallen Legion Plus. The people are starving, forced under the rule of a ruler that ravaged their land. What do you expect to happen? What's truly fascinating about this title is that you get to experience the story from two different perspectives, which come together to give further context to the game. Depending on which part you decide to take first, which I recommend starting with Sins of an Empire, you likely see the other as the villain and your side as the just cause. However, that may not be the truth. The real truth comes from experiencing both routes, and part of that truth is that the real victims of whims of rulers are the people they rule over. I like this concept a lot because it's a great depiction of reality. Those among us who think in us and them terms see the world from a point of view where they're right and everyone else who doesn't think like them are wrong. It's a scary way of thinking because if a proper open-minded dialogue were initiated, chances are something good could come of understanding each other. I found Fallen Legion Plus to be a perfect depiction of that. Playing the game is quite simple too. You have the option to play the basic campaign or the masochist one life mode. During the game you progress by selecting nodes on a map, then your character progresses on a beautifully illustrated 2D path through the stages in an unreal fashion. When you encounter an enemy, you engage them by using the face buttons to command your exemplars to attack or use your own magical attacks to support them. Alvin explores this combat system much better in our Sins of an Empire review, so I'll let him explain even further.
When you enter a node, you'll pick your party members, known as exemplars. From here, you're pretty much riding on rails all the way, neutralizing enemies, until the level is over. At first I thought the game was like Dragon's Crown, where you can move your character around beating up foes, but it's not like that at all. Instead, each of the exemplars you call forth, up to 3, are assigned to a face button, square, X, or circle. So let's say I put the bow user on square. Whenever I press square, the bow user will attack as many times as it will allow before the attacks have to recharge. From here, pressing these buttons in combination, the exemplars will slash, pierce, and shoot at your behest. It gets more interesting with the combo bar on the bottom. The circles on the bar will fill up with the exemplars' faces as they continue to hit uninterrupted. Certain circles on the bar can be given a buff, and if an exemplar attacks in that circle, they'll receive that buff. Circles with a blue aura on it are known as death blows, and when an exemplar attacks here, they'll unleash a powerful move. Honestly though, I tend to end up mashing the buttons most of the time when I'm on the offensive. Now defensively, in my experience, perfect blocking is key to gaining an advantage on enemies. While you can block normally, just by holding down L1, you'll still take some damage. With perfect blocking, meaning you press block right before any enemy is about to attack, you can stagger an opponent giving them a debuff, say defenseless, that can lower their defense as you capitalize on a counterattack. Plus, usually, you can also gain one action point used for normal attacks. The sound of a perfect block and the feedback the game gives is really satisfying when you can pull it off. It makes you want to do it again and again until you get the hang of it. But as cool as the flow of combat can get, it can feel like a slog as repetition can rear its ugly head from time to time. But new enemies do appear to lessen that feeling. I will say the highlight are most of the boss battles. They're fiercely intimidating and they do pose a challenge, even if one of them did feel a little cheap, personally speaking, which I'll get to later. Now you might be wondering what Cecile's role is in all this. She's a mage of sorts in battle. Her initial set of moves are Heal, Cassandra's Coil, which is like an energy beam, and a Resurrect spell for when the Exemplars lose all their health. These spells are charged for use as the Exemplars deal damage. Spells can be switched out using certain gems that provide buffs and sometimes negative effects to balance things out. The gems in general that are not slotted to Cecile's spell choices can have different abilities depending on how powerful the gem is. As you're heading to each successive battle, Fallen Legion gives you choices based on what's going on in the country of Phonumia. For example, with the first choice you're given, the game states that one of your father's inner circle has offered to help you for a price. Above you see 3 cards. Each choice will give you something in return. In this case, I chose Refuse, so I got a 2x combo added to the combo bar. These choices, of which there are many, are scattered around battle zones and are timed, so you must choose what you think is the best, because apparently, they change the world around you. Royalty, which are hard to keep track of by name sometimes, vie for power, and you must act accordingly, which makes it feel a bit like Game of Thrones. I'm still not exactly sure how much of the world changes. I'll have to play again to see if I can mold it, but there are moments after you're given a choice where a representative of the people or person effective acknowledges your decision and rewards you thusly. This can happen during the battle zones, but for this example, it takes place in town. Earlier, I made a decision to help with a fatal disease. When strolling through town, I found a woman grateful for the assistance and gave me tributes from my exemplars. There are even side missions that pop up based on your choices, though I had no clue they were side missions. Let's talk about these exemplars, shall we? They definitely remind me a lot of the pawns from Dragon's Dogma. Each has their own defined class, but are made a bit more personal since they have names attached to them. Zulfikar is a tank, wearing shiny intimidating armor with a huge shield and sharp sword. Longinus is a spear user and she can do a ton of damage with her flurry of attacks. And Apollon is the bow user that can debilitate foes from a distance. These are the first 3 exemplars by your side, but throughout your journey, you can also acquire others. For example, there's Winchester, who snipes with you guessed it, a Winchester rifle, as well as Mjolnir, a dwarf who carries a gigantic hammer and uses a whirlwind attack. It's cool switching up the party just to see what kind of damage each combination can do. Eventually, your exemplars can evolve into stronger versions, granting more abilities when doing actions. For instance, Order Zulfikar can heal allies after a successful block, which is really handy. Having upgraded exemplars helps a ton, but I wasn't exactly sure what activated their inherent power. Let's also talk about that Minerva boss battle. That one had a crazy difficulty spike for me regarding the dagger-wielding lady ninja. It took me at least 10 tries to defeat her, and even then I think I got lucky. I had to be so spot on with my blocks to get her to fall down so I could do any sort of significant damage to her. If I missed, she did extraordinary amounts of damage that can kill exemplars in just a few hits. She was very tough to block, even after getting her patterns down. It was a really frustrating fight. I will note that if you die at any time during a stage, you'll have to start from the beginning, even if you get close to finishing. However, if you die at a boss encounter, you can continue from the boss encounter, which will save you from tearing some of your hair out.
Graphically, the game looks great on the PC. I can't say that I'm as impressed by the look of the game as I was with the Vita version. For some reason, I find it a bit rough around the edges, but that may just be my personal biases towards the Vita showing. Who knows, you may fancy it a lot more than I did on the PC. Now, what got my attention was actually the audio.
I serve Phonumia, although it has never truly been my country. I've never forgotten that once my people charted their own course, instead of laboring under the yoke of a conquering empire, but I'm one of few.
My country was dying. It had been an open secret amongst the princes that our economy had been in slow decline for the last decade. The consequence of building an empire on conquest and then conquering everything.
The background audio really helps set an atmosphere of wherever the characters happen to be. From the echoes of dripping water and the knocking of chains in a dungeon to the sound of chilly winds of a frozen tundra, it all sounds as you'd expect. And I think it's this attention to detail in the audio that truly brings out the beauty of the game to me. So, with all that I've had to say so far about this game, here's my final verdict. If you've been on the fence about picking up either of the other two games in this collection, then this is the perfect package for you. At its launch price of $30, I think it's well worth it. It's a game that will keep you thinking about it long after you complete it. I wish it was available like it is here for the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 4 so that players of those platforms can experience both parts one after the other as I was able to. However, that is not the case. For PC and soon Switch users, they'll be able to get the definitive version of this beautiful hand-drawn gem. The PlayStation 4 owners can buy both games separately, and those on the Vita are pretty much out of luck. With only one of the two parts available for that platform, it's a sad situation. But all that being said, I do think it's a game that you should look into if you like games like this. Thank you very much for watching our review of Fallen Legion Plus, and if you enjoyed this review, make sure to leave us a like and a comment in the comment section below to let us know what you think about the game. And if you'd like to see more content like this from us, make sure to subscribe to this channel.
Now's our chance!